So, you're aiming for a top score on the IELTS. You probably already know it's not just about what English you know, right? It's really about dodging those hidden traps. In this quick explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on those common mistakes and give you a super clear roadmap to navigate them. Ready? Let's dive in. You know, what's that one thing standing between you and your dream university or that amazing career abroad? For a whole lot of that, it's this big exam, the IELTS. Yep, that's the hurdle. But here's the thing, success isn't just about cramming vocabulary words. It's all about sidestepping those common pitfalls that trip up even really smart candidates and stop them from getting the score they actually deserve. Okay, so what's the big deal with this test? What makes it so demanding? I mean, why isn't it just another English quiz? Let's get into it and break down exactly what's at stake here. All right, so IELTS, which stands for the International English Language Testing System, yeah, it's pretty much the gold standard for proving your English fluency. It's not about memorizing grammar rules from a book. It's designed to see how well you can actually use the language in real-life academic or professional situations. And how do they measure it? Well, everything is on this 9-band scale. A 9, that's the absolute top, the highest you can get. It basically means you're an expert user of the language. That's the dream score, right? The ultimate goal? And listen, here's why those numbers are so important. They're not just random scores, they map directly to these big international standards, like the Common European Framework of Reference. You've probably heard of it as CEFR. So getting a band 7 or 8, that's not just good, that's a C1 level of proficiency. And that perfect band 9, whoa, that's C2 level. We're talking total mastery. So yeah, the bar is set really high. So with that high bar, you can imagine it creates some challenges, right? In fact, it leads to 3 super common traps that even people who've prepared a lot fall into. Getting a handle on these is the absolute first strategic shift you gotta make. Okay, here they are, the big 3. Trap number 1, negligence. Just kinda underestimating how precise you need to be for that C1 level. Trap number 2, a lack of balanced practice. You know, not sharpening all 4 skills, reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And the third one, this is a biggie, treating English like it's just another subject you study in school, instead of a language you have to live and breathe. And this quote, it just hits the nail on the head for that third trap. I mean, think about it for a second. Babies don't learn their first language from a textbook, do they? Nope. They learn by being totally immersed in it. They catch the language, and that is the absolute key. You've got to live it, not just study it. All right, so that's the theory, but how do we actually put this into practice? Let's start by building a solid battle plan for what, let's be honest, is often the most intimidating part for a lot of people, the speaking test. So the speaking test is broken down into 3 distinct parts. Part 1 is basically a warm-up, an interview about familiar topics. Then you get to part 2, where you'll speak for a couple of minutes on a specific topic they give you. And finally, part 3 is more of an abstract, back-and-forth discussion with the examiner. Just knowing this structure inside and out is your first step to feeling in control. So how do you get ready? Well, you've got to make speaking a daily habit. Seriously, talk to anyone and everyone you can. Practice speaking on topics you've never thought about before. That's how you build real fluency. And when you're in the test, focus on speaking clearly and confidently. Oh, and here's a golden nugget of advice. If you're not 100% sure about a complicated word, just use a simpler one. Trust me, accuracy is always better than a failed attempt at trying to sound fancy. Okay, moving on. Let's take these same ideas and apply them to the writing test. This is another area where tiny, totally avoidable mistakes can have a huge, and I mean huge, impact on your final score. The fundamentals here are actually pretty simple, but they are so crucial. The don'ts on this list, this is where people just throw away easy points. Ignoring the word count, rushing through, terrible time management, these are absolute score killers. It all comes down to discipline. You have to leave a few minutes at the end to switch your brain from writer mode to editor mode and just proofread your work. So how do you build that discipline? Well, it really starts with what you're reading. You need to be consuming high-quality writing. We're talking academic journals, good newspapers. Find some high-scoring model essays and analyze them. Break them down to see what makes them work. And then it's just practice, practice, practice. Do it regularly, using official IELTS materials. And always keep an eye on your grammar. All right, let's pull all of this together now. We're going to create a final actionable plan. And this isn't just some random list of tips, okay? This is your strategic path to success. So here it is, the key takeaways. First, Take mock tests regularly. You have to know where your weaknesses are. Second, get feedback from teachers or language experts, people who know what they're talking about. Third, make practice a non-negotiable part of your day, every single day. Fourth, always proofread what you write. And last but not least, remember what this is all about. This isn't just a test of your English. It's a test of your abilities to express your ideas clearly and effectively. So, I'm going to leave you with a question to think about. Don't just watch this and move on. I want you to actually apply it. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is the one single thing you're going to do differently in your practice, starting today, right now? Because that one small change, that could be the thing that makes all the difference in the world.